check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. The shotgun bullets are bad for your health. I've made the decision that this is going to be the third Phoenix that I've built. The other two are very different to each other, and they're going to be very different to this. So this is going to be multi-scale and full neck through and amazing, as always. We don't do anything except amazing here. So I need to get this ready for a truss rod. To do that, first I'm going to cut the headstock angle and plane that in, and that'll give me everything I need to get the channel cut. I'll grab out my template, grab out a router and make some dust. But first to the bandsaw. So that's the headstock angle planed in. I need to start routing for the truss rod, but I don't actually have the truss rod for this guitar at the moment. Everywhere that I looked was out of stock of the right size, and the one place that I can find one is going to take a little while to turn up. But I know the dimensions and I know how they fit, because I've fitted enough of them. The ideal size for a truss rod is something that quite a lot of people puzzle over. Basically, you want to think where the carve of the neck is going to be, because it's not going to affect the heel and it's not going to affect the headstock. If you think of a truss rod, it's going to kind of bend in that kind of way. If you think this is the apex of the curve, that's going to want to be pretty much bang on the middle of your neck. So if you can get your measurements from just behind where the actual nut of the truss rod is and to the other end of the neck behind the heel, if you can have the middle of that truss rod somewhere around the middle area of your neck, which is usually probably about the 7th or 8th fret for kind of distance wise, but obviously measure the guitar that you're using, don't take that as your number. That's usually the right length to use. So I've got 440mm for this one. I tend to use a lot of 400 and 420s, but I just wanted a little bit extra so that I've got the extra space for moving the body joint along. That being said, I'm sure I said in a video at some point that you should wait until you've got your hardware before doing things, and then proceeded to just carry on going without having the hardware. It's still a do as I say, not as I do, really, isn't it? Yeah, that being said, I'm gonna get my template out and start routing. I've measured and marked where I want everything, so I can just go. As well taper this. Well, I forgot to press record whilst I was doing some measuring and drawing, but I've marked on the extent of the body joint, so this will be almost exactly the same length overall as a standard Strat type guitar. I try and stay within those dimensions because it's a bit easier to find a case that fits then. It's also kind of the size people are used to and more comfortable with. But we should have, for the treble side, 24 frets. We should have a join about the 21st or 2nd fret. So the access should be pretty damn good. I've marked on the thickness of the headstock, a volute, so that I've got the extra meat under where my truss rod access is. It's not essential, but I like them. They look nice. It's a bit of extra carving. What's not to like? And at the moment I've marked on a kind of standard vintage type heel, which will probably get blended into the actual back of the body, because with a nice easy access joint I can probably get rid of most of that. But what I need to do now is take this to the bandsaw and remove the bulk of the material that I don't need, which will give me a bit more indication as to how much this is going to weigh and whether I need to do anything in regards of weight relief in the neck or what I've got for a body so far. Because there are ways and means of doing all of that. I was at the bandsaw, the offcut from the bottom of the neck, or the back of the neck, whichever you want to call it, I've taken that down to roughly the same thickness, ever so slightly over, that I've got of the headstock, and I've cut it straight up the middle, because what I want to do is orient the grain in the right direction, and I'll plane up the wenge and I'll make my headstock wings out of that. So there will be a faceplate veneer, so you won't see it from the front, but from the back it'll carry on the stripes and it'll look extra cool. And then when I do my kind of recessed branding over here, in theory you should have a wenge stripe running straight through it, which should correspond quite nicely to the middle of my 4th Avenue inlay. But I need to plane these up and get them nice and smooth first. So that's what I'm going to do now. So we're coming on quite nicely. I've sanded this face of the headstock down now, it's all glued up. I've got about 12-13mm thickness, I think. Currently 14, we've got extra on the sides. But I need to put a faceplate of veneer on here. I will be doing it in two parts. I've got a piece of the same maple that I'll be using for the body, which will give me a nice flat surface, and then I will be putting a pretty veneer on the entire body, which will go on here to match as well. But this underneath will give it a kind of bit of extra thickness and almost a kind of slight faux binding effect. I need to trim this down to roughly the right size and then get it glued up. That's the neck blank roughed out, so we've got tapered, cut roughly to thickness, headstock roughed in, and ready for a truss rod. So I'm going to put this to one side and make a start on the body. But I think that's the next video. See you then.